All right, so today we're going to do what is the difference between Enneagram Type 1 and Enneagram Type 6, which I think is a pretty necessary video, actually, because this is a pretty common mistype. I know that just for me in my own life, if I know people that are 1s and 6s, gosh, almost for the longest time, sometimes it's pretty hard for me to tell. You know, I can vacillate between both. Just a little bit about my own personal story. I know that I've told you guys that I identify as a 6 on the Enneagram, but when I first started learning the Enneagram, probably for the first 2 weeks, I was really identifying more with Type 1. And this actually is a really good segue for me to make a really important point here about typing with the Enneagram. There's a lot of confusion, especially with a lot of really poorly written internet-based articles about typing with the Enneagram. And so this is what I want to say, regardless of what two numbers you're stuck between. Do not consider your Enneagram number based on your topical behaviors, okay? In other words, you can read all these Enneagram profiles and they'll say things like, well, you know, 1s are perfectionists, they like lists and they like order and they like cleanliness, and 2s are really helpful and they like people and they're usually very extroverted. Listen, all of that stuff is great, and those things are lists of typical behavioral patterns that we tend to find with each Enneagram number, okay? But that is not the core of what makes your Enneagram number. So regardless of whether or not those topical descriptions fit you, what you need to be looking at are the core fears of the Enneagram numbers. That's really what helped me differentiate between Type 1 and Type 6 for myself. The descriptions of Type 1 sounded a lot like me. In fact, my best friend, who also studies the Enneagram, is ridiculously knowledgeable about it. I was kind of asking her for help, and she told me that if she had to guess, she would think that I was a 1. But the whole like fear of being bad, just nothing. I mean, I could give, you know, 0 rat asses about being bad. I just could. I mean, I kind of like being bad sometimes. I just do. But then I was reading the core fears, and so I said, well, let me go over to Type 6, whose topical behaviors I didn't identify with as much as Type 1. But I read the core fear for Type 6, and it like felt like someone was running me through with a spear. And I don't mean in a bad way. It almost felt like I had just all of these pent-up beliefs and lies that I could never really put language to. And for the first time in my life, I had found this tool that took these things that were just unspeakable within the core of my soul and put language to them. It was a very freeing experience for me, actually. Kind of made me feel like I wasn't alone in the world. Like there was obviously someone out there that understood me, perhaps even better than I understood myself. And I knew at that moment, I knew that I knew. Even if I couldn't explain why I was identifying with more of the topical behaviors of Type 1, I knew that I was a 6. And it's rung true ever since. And I also will say, as another point that you need to know, just because I didn't identify with all of the topical behaviors in Type 6 at first, I do want you to know that as time has gone on and I've observed myself and I've learned really what it means to be a 6 and what the core of that looks like, I'm seeing all of those things in my life now in spades. It's almost embarrassing how much of those things I do on a daily basis. In fact, I don't really do as much of the things in Type 1 as I thought I did. But it took a lot of observation, and it took a lot of objective observation. And I think that's part of what makes typing so difficult, because when you're typing yourself, you don't really want to see yourself the way that you are, especially not with a tool like the Enneagram, because the Enneagram is pulling out the worst parts of you, right? Nobody likes to see that. That's human, you know? And when you're typing somebody else, you really want to be right. I'm guilty of this too. So we want other people to fit into our schematic of what we think they should look like, right? And that's just not how it works. You really need to be like just a completely objective and detached person in order to use the Enneagram effectively and to its fullest potential, I think. Anyways, that's just a little side comment if you're really having a hard time typing yourself or someone else. Those are my suggestions. So we're going to jump into the difference between Enneagram Type 1 and Enneagram Type 6 today. I want to say right off the bat that they look insanely similar to each other, just topically speaking, especially if you have a 1 that is under the impression that they might not perform something personally, or I'm sorry, perfectly. I don't even know why I said that. Perfectly. That will draw anxiety out of the 1 that looks, I'm talking about just damn near identical to the anxiety that type 6 usually displays. If I were to give you the biggest difference between the two, something that you could notice right off the bat, I would say Enneagram Type 1 is much more confident and self-directed than Enneagram Type 6. Enneagram Type 1 kind of holds their own direction within themselves, and it's not really their own direction. What they have done is they've traveled through life and they've collected all of the shoulds and should nots, all of the things that they should do and they shouldn't do, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate according to the context that they've had to live in, according to the context of the life that they've had to live in. And that has kind of become their guiding light, you know what I mean? So they don't really appear on the outside as compliant as a type 6 does. They definitely appear more self-directed. 6s appear more needy, but even then, I would still tell you that while I would consider that to be the biggest difference between the two, it's still a pretty subtle difference. And I don't think it's an easy one to spot, okay? This is just my opinion, but the reason for that is because even though Enneagram Type 1 tends to be more self-directed, in a sense, they don't like to consciously operate in that. In other words, it's not good to be too pushy or to sound like I know everything, or to be too confident or come on too strong. It's really good for me to kind of hone that back a little bit and make room for other people and to be appropriate and to be respectful of other people's opinions, even if they have no intention of conceding to them. That's just the respectful thing to do. It's the appropriate thing to do, right? So for that reason, they tend not to come off as their I don't know, their ability to be more self-directed is a bit more subtle, I think. And of course it's not always the case. There's always going to be variations with each person, right? Because there are a lot of different things that compose a person. But like one example, I used to work with a lady who was a 1 with a 9 wing on the Enneagram, but she was also an ENTJ in Myers-Briggs, and she was a fairly strong personality. In fact, she's, out of all the 1s that I've ever known, she's probably the only one that just came off really strong. I mean, she wasn't unbearable, not to me. I knew some people that thought that she was, but she was definitely like an acquired taste, if you know what I mean. So that's an example. But anyway, so those are some things that you should keep in mind right off the bat about why they can look so alike, and then their biggest difference, okay? So I've got my list up here again of just kind of the differences between 1 and 6, and I'm just going to run off that today, like always. Okay. Oh, how about that? I already covered the first point. 1s are a little bit more self-confident. 6s are self-doubting. That's another way to put it. Again, 1s kind of have their own sense of direction in the sense that they've collected everything that they need to know to guide them. 6s are always looking to collect more, if that makes any sense. And I think I said that in a terrible way. Probably didn't make any sense. Because of that, on the outside, 1s appear to be very decisive, like they know what to do. I know that I touched back in a couple videos ago, and I don't remember which one now, but Enneagram Type 1s very much need to be right. And they need to be right because if they're not right, they failed. Like it's bad not to be right. You know what I mean? It's almost, if I had to give you what I imagine the self-talk in their head sounds like, I imagine it's probably something along the lines of, oh my goodness, I spoke and I didn't really know the answer to that, and it turned out that I was wrong. I should have double-checked that. I didn't pay enough attention when I was getting that information. kind of a thing. I shouldn't have sounded so self-confident because now I look like an idiot, that kind of thing. Sixes, and when they're counterphobic, they can kind of come off really, really self-confident. You know, they'll make really bold statements about what they know and what they don't know. But by and large, phobic sixes, which from what I've noticed tends to be more common, you can tell that they're pretty indecisive. They're just kind of not sure. They're always looking for something or someone to just kind of confirm that they're on the right path. I'm going to use myself as an example. It really is something that I do every day, almost every hour. It's crippling, whether I emotionally register that at the time or not. It is. I am in the process right now of building my own business, at which, on the one hand, I've always kind of wanted to do because I've always liked the idea of working for myself. I don't like working for other people. But on the other hand, there's just always been this place inside of me that thinks, like, what if I don't have what it takes to do this? What if I can't figure out how to do it? What if it's too much? I mean, I've heard stories about people that have started their own companies and the money that they've had to invest and the time, and I think, what if I don't have the time? What if I can't come up with the money? What if I build this whole thing and it collapses and bottoms out and I lose everything that I invested into it? So I've kind of been, over just the past couple of months, like really, really holding back. Every time it comes to a point where it's time for me to initiate something new or invest my money in, you know, a new business or something that's going to help my business grow, I'm really hesitant. I'll find excuses not to do it. And it's like what I'm telling myself in my head, even though I often don't realize it at the time, but when I think back, I realize this is what I was thinking, is it's like I just want an assurance. I just want someone or something to happen that will make me feel like I can be 100% sure that this thing is going to work out and it's going to provide the money that I need for my family. And the problem with that is that life doesn't give assurances. I mean, I know a lot of you guys, if you've watched my videos, know that, you know, I'm of the Christian faith. So I'm telling God all the time, I'm begging Him sometimes, you know, if you could just promise me, can you just tell me that everything is going to be okay? God's not going to do that. In fact, quite to the contrary, even in the Bible, Jesus tells His disciples, not only will I not promise you that life is going to be good, I actually am in fact going to promise the opposite and tell you that life is going to suck, so you need to brace yourself. I mean, you know, he was a realistic counselor, which is one of the reasons why I love Jesus. But anyways, that's an example of me as a 6. That's that constant indecisiveness, that fear of moving unless I have a direction. It's kind of like my whole life is lived in such a way that I want someone to just come along and hold their hand out to me and offer me exactly what I need and look me in the face and say, I'm not going to let it go and I'm not going to leave you until I know 100% sure that you can stand on your own without being shaken. You know, and you can apply that to any context that you want, but just kind of this whole thing with me starting my own business is kind of a part of that, you know. Anyways, so ones don't have that problem because ones have, like I said, spent their entire life gathering what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, what's expected of them and what's not expected of them, what's right and what's wrong. So they've already got all that down. They're still a compliant type, meaning that they orient around something that's outside of themselves, but ones have taken those ideals and they've internalized them and they've made them part of who they are. So for a 1, I imagine that the experience of living for them is really more like they are self-directed. You know, I don't think that they deal with indecisiveness. All the ones that I have known have been right off the bat very willing to say, well, this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. You know, I could go to a 1 about, in fact, I have a friend that's a 1, and I've been talking to her about starting my business, and every time that she and I get together to discuss what that looks like, she has started her own business, and she's been doing it for years, so she's way ahead of me. She, you know, she's given me, she'll stop me mid-sentence, and she'll say, no, that's not what you need to do. This is what you need to do, and this is how this works, and you're going to have to go through all of these steps. I'm telling you, I've done this. This is what you have to do. And it's very black and white, and it's A to Z, and these are the steps, and it's just this linear thought process, right? And in a way, it's a comforting thing for me as a 6 because that's the sort of guidance that I'm looking for. I almost get frustrated with, like, I have a friend who's a 2 on the Enneagram, and if I go to her and tell her the same thing, she doesn't even really offer me any practical advice. She wants to give me all of this emotional coddling, like, oh, I know that it's kind of a nervous thing for you, but don't worry, I believe in you. I think you'll figure it out. Everything will be okay in the end. And it's like, I mean, I appreciate all of that, but that doesn't solve my problem. I mean, I don't need to feel better emotionally. I need some answers. You know what I mean? So anyways, that's just, I hope, a good picture for you of what decisiveness looks like for type 1 and what indecisiveness looks like for type 6. Oh, here's a really good point that we should probably cover. In terms of when they don't get what they want, when life doesn't go their way, ones will get angry. Resentful might be a better word. They feel anger first, but they stuff their anger down, and that creates an attitude of resentment and bitterness, okay? 6s fly off the handle. And I don't necessarily mean that they fly off the handle with anger, even though that can happen, but they're one of the reactive types, along with type 4 and type 8. For 6s, emotional reactivity looks like anxiety. It's panic, it's overreacting to minor things, making a mountain out of a molehill, that kind of a thing. I'll give you another example from my own life. I met with a friend of mine 2 weeks ago. I'm building my own website. I just decided it was probably cheaper for me to do it by myself, and apparently there are a lot of tutorials and things online to teach you. So I decided, let me try this first and invest as little money as possible, and then if it just, the whole thing is, tanks, I can just go hire somebody if that's what I need to do. So I'm talking to a friend of mine who, she built her own website from scratch, taught herself everything online with web tutorials, and so I went to her and, oh, actually, you know what, now that I think about it, she's a 1 on the Enneagram as well. So I went to her and I was like, well, you've done all this, can you tell me, what to do, because I'm lost and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I went through this whole spiel with her about just the anxieties that I was having about it, and so far I've put all this money into building this website myself, which still isn't a lot of money compared to what it would cost to pay somebody, but to me it's a lot of money because I live paycheck to paycheck. I mean, I don't have money to throw at building a website. So for me, this, and especially as a 6, for whom security needs are central, a self-preservation 6 on top of that, for whom financial security is central, it's a central need for me. To throw my money into a project and not know whether or not it's going to take off is so massively terrifying. I almost feel like it's like a life-changing thing for me. And actually, for me, it is, So I'm kind of like at this, I don't know, this climax in my life, if you will, a crossroads, I don't know. But, so I'm telling her all of this. And she looks at me when I'm done with this whole spiel of what-ifs that I came up with, and she's like, first of all, you are so overthinking this. If I can do it, you can do it. And so, see, and that, even then, when she said that, it was like, on the one hand, I was a little comforted to hear that someone else thought I could do it, because as a 6, I'm thinking, well, if someone else thinks that I can do it, then maybe I can. See, if I think I can do it, I'll question that. Well, I'm not really sure if I can, but this other person over here thinks that I can, so maybe it's true. You see what I'm saying? So on the one hand, I was a little happy to hear her say that, but then on the other hand, I was still questioning. I'm not her. She can do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be able to do it. And what if she's wrong? What if I can't do it? What if I've lost all this money? Kind of a thing. Sorry. Surprise, surprise. Anyways, sorry. So, that's a little bit about, actually, that's a really good example of just about how Enneagram Type 1 and Type 6 just approach problem solving in general, because Enneagram Type 1, being in the competent triad with Type 3 and Type 5, approach problem solving from the perspective of competency. In other words, emotional detachment so that we can allow logic to prevail in order to find the most efficient route to solving our problem, if it's a solvable problem. I think out of all the types types 1, 3, and 5 are probably going to be the most willing to accept the fact that there's nothing that they can do about it. Maybe not 3 as much, but still, yeah, still 3. Out of all the Enneagram types, to just completely have some sort of a meltdown, whether it's anger, sadness, anxiety, as would be the case for type 6, it would be 4, 6, and 8, because they are in the reactive triad. So in that scenario that I just gave you, my friend who was a 1 was listening to all of this what if stuff that I was giving her, and she thought, very logically, there are tutorials online that you can use to teach yourself how to do this. That's what I've always done. I've done it. I've seen them. I can do it. You can do it. Anybody with a brain can do it. It's a solvable problem. Why are you upset about this? You're overthinking this. That was her perspective, right? My perspective was, oh my goodness, I just put all this money down. I purchased this software to build a website, and I purchased the host server and all of this other stuff and things I don't even know the names of yet, and what if I can't figure it out? You guys saw how many weeks it took me to figure out how to fix my videos so that you could actually hear them, right? And even then, I'm still using my iPad, and the screen does this weird wiggly thing, and it drives me bananas. I need to get a webcam, but that's a whole nother expense down the line. So I'm taking all of this on and internalizing it and turning it into this anxiety. And 1s are just kind of this is the problem. This is the logical solution. Can I do that solution? Yes. Therefore, in X amount of time, my problem will be solved. I should get to work. Okay? So that's the difference. 1 and 6. In terms of their reactions to other people, if they have negative reactions to other people, 1s tend to be annoyed by other people, kind of why can't you get this right? Why are you so lazy? Why am I the only person that applies any kind of effort here? That kind of a thing. And 6s are scared of people, could be one way to say it. Suspicious of people might be a better way to say it. 6s are really suspicious of people. For 6s, it's I don't know if I can trust you. Yeah, that's just exactly what it comes down to. It's just, I just don't know if I can trust you. 1s are, why can't you just do the right thing? Why are you lazy? 6s are, who are you and what is your agenda? You know what I mean? So there's a difference. Oh, good night. I don't know what these people would do if they couldn't get a hold of me. I don't know what they'd do. Half the world would cease to function if I didn't answer my phone, I swear. Anyways, 1s are always looking for perfection in every situation. The ultimate goal of anything that they devise, of how they interact with other people, of how they pick their clothes out in the morning, is perfection. And perfection doesn't mean, in terms of picking your clothing out, perfection doesn't mean there aren't any stains or wrinkles and my shirt is tucked in. It doesn't necessarily mean that, even though that could be part of it. Perfection means when I get dressed today, what is it when I walk out of this house that people are going to expect me to look like? I should be able to attain that to a T. If people expected the 1 to come out of the house in their pajamas with their hair in curlers, then 1s would make sure that they were in their pajamas with their hair in curlers, but the rest of us need to be doing that as well, because that's the standard, right? So everything is about perfection. That's the end result. for sixes, the end result of everything that they do, every plan that they concoct, every interaction that they have with people, every way that they get dressed in the morning, they pick their clothes out, is for security. In other words, is the thing that I'm doing, the person that I'm talking to, the words that I'm saying right now, are these things that are going to put me in jeopardy of experiencing some sort of harm in the future, whether that be physical, emotional, relational, financial, whatever, or does it set me up for security? An example about just picking the clothes out that you wear each day. This is something that I do. As a 6, especially if I'm going to go to work, they give us a dress code. We don't have uniforms, but we have a dress code. So I'm really picky about the clothing that I wear, and I will stand in front of the mirror and I'll check and I'll say, well, my bra strap shows a little bit if I move like this way or that way. What if that gets me in trouble, because that may offend somebody and then they may not like it and I may get in trouble for that, and I don't want to get in trouble for that because then I could lose my job. I don't want to be on the radar or anything like that. What about this skirt? Is this skirt a good length? Some people get offended if they can see your knees. I should probably get a longer skirt. I don't want to wear anything that doesn't look professional. I am so... It's stupid. Guys, it's really stupid. If you're a 6 and you do this, and I know that you do because you are a 6, I just want you to know it's stupid. And I'm telling you that with love because I'm a 6 and I do it too, and we need to stop doing all this stupid shit that we do. I'm just telling you. From one 6 to another. Kind of the thing that I've been dealing with just this month is always in the month of October. I love Halloween. I love it. And the bookstore that I work at is a Christian bookstore, and so they don't support Halloween, because Halloween is of the devil and all this other stuff. And you know what? That may be true, but I don't know. I like Halloween. I just do. I always have. So one of my favorite things to do is I get little Halloween themed earrings, and I'm not wearing them today. But I have little jack-o'-lanterns, and I have ones that are some little witches, and I have one that's a little coffin, little tiny coffins. They're so cute. And anyway, so I only wear them in the month of October, and I get up in the morning and I really want to put them on and I really want to wear them because I love them. They're just so cute. But I think to myself, I'm going to go into work and it's a Christian place and everybody there hates Halloween and they're always bashing it, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to wear, I probably wouldn't wear the jack-o'-lantern earrings or the witch earrings, but maybe the coffin earrings I could get away with. But my point is even then I get scared to put those on because I'm like, what if someone sees me and I get in trouble for worshiping Satan or whatever it is that they think, how things like that happen. And I hate saying it, but most unfortunately in religious communities, Christian communities especially, you tend to have more closed-mindedness than you do elsewhere. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's what it's like at my job. What I'm saying is it's always my fear that that's what it will be like. And so I get to this place where I really want to express myself as, I'm a 6 and I want to express myself, and I always stop and consider, again, just what am I going to put on today from the perspective of security. In other words, if I put on my little coffin earrings today and I walk into work and some, fearful, small-minded Christian person sees these and thinks I'm worshiping the devil and goes and tells the supervisor that I'm worshiping the devil, and it may not even be a big deal. Let's suppose that does happen. They'd probably just ask me to take them off. Well, I don't believe I should have to take them off because I don't believe that they are satanic in any way. I don't worship Satan. I don't wear them as a way to reference Satan. I wear them because I saw them at the store and they were cute and they were 99 cents. So then I would be placing myself in that situation where I would have to choose between what I believe is my right to self-expression versus company policies, which may not even be a policy. That would be kind of a gray area with the dress code. See, as a 6, that's the stuff we try and stay away from. So you can see the earrings I'm wearing right now, no Halloween theme, because when I got up this morning, I saw them and I thought, this could cost me something. This could endanger me. So because of that, I'm choosing not to wear them. I'm not condoning the decision that I made. I don't necessarily think it's the right decision. With that being said, I don't necessarily think it was the wrong decision either. What I'm saying is it's a decision that I made quickly because I had to, and so I just reverted to personality because it's always worked for me. When I mute who I am and I hold back my self-expression, I don't get in trouble. See, when you start expressing yourself, you're going to start pissing people off, right? If truth be told, I'm actually an incredibly opinionated person, as those of you who watch this video have probably picked up on by now. But I keep that to myself because it keeps me out of trouble. You see what I'm saying? Again, not necessarily a good thing. Not necessarily a bad thing. There's a whole nother video that I could do on the underlying principles behind that. I mean, that's just, we could get real existential with that, and I don't have a lot of time because we're already at 30 minutes. But anyways, those are some differences. There are a couple of other things that I would have liked to have covered, but we kind of got into some other things today. But I think I gave you some really good meaty things to kind of chew on for a little while. So, anyways, as usual, any questions, any comments, video suggestions, put them in the comments box below. I do get the suggestions that each of you are giving to me. If you're giving me suggestions about, I want to know if I'm this type or this type, again, I'm doing them chronologically, so it is not that your request has been ignored. It is simply that your request hasn't come up on the list yet. I'm just going in order of my list as I get them, okay? So just keep that in mind, and I will see you guys when I get a chance to make another one.